Hello everybody, welcome and thank you for joining us today for our performance reporting webinar with Profix. My name is Brad Vorbeck, I'm with Turnkey Technologies, and we also have Hashim Alvi with Profix with us today, who I'll be handing it off to shortly. I just want to start out by saying that if you do have questions during today's webinar, please feel free to submit them using your GoToWebinar panel. And we are going to leave some time at the end for a Q&A to get those answered. Also, the webinar is going to be recorded, so we will send that out to you tomorrow in a follow-up email as well. So just a little bit about Turnkey Technologies for those who aren't familiar with us or the format of these webinars. We are a Microsoft solution provider. We're based in St. Louis, Missouri. We're primarily focused on ERP software, but we also focus on CRM, Office 365, Power BI, and the enhancements and cloud hosting services that go along with these solutions. We help our clients stay on top of ways they might be able to further automate or enhance their processes. And Profix is our partner for performance reporting software, which provides an integrated all-in-one reporting, budgeting, and planning solution. So we're excited to be hosting this webinar today with them. And on that note, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Hashim to take us away. Hashim?
Thank you, Brad. Hi, everyone. As Brad mentioned, my name is Hashim Alvi. I'm a solutions engineer here at Profix. And today, as Brad has mentioned, we're focusing on performance reporting, essentially as the next level of management reporting. And just to get us started here, to provide you with a brief overview of what we do here at Profix, at Profix, we develop an innovative corporate performance management, or CPM software, that helps you automate all your critical financial processes, such as budgeting, planning, consolidations, and reporting, overall to improve a company's profitability and minimize risk. Our goal is to provide you with the right balance of simplicity and depth, enabling you to deliver that CPM software that is easy, powerful, and collaborative for everyone. And just a little more about Profix in general. We have thousands of organizations in nearly over 100 countries that use Profix to gain increased visibility and insight into their business performance. And what's really important to note is we don't sell our software piecemeal. We sell a complete CPM package. So you can purchase Profix now and implement only the functionality that you need. And our solution will then grow with you and will support your future strategic performance management needs. Now, I know the focus of today's webinar is on performance reporting, but to touch on some of the typical challenges that have led customers to embrace Profix include, a lot of our customers having massive spreadsheets involving multiple sources of data and numerous departments involved. And this can all often lead to information overload, resulting in overwrites, depletions, and really the inability to manage your reporting and budgeting. And this is where Profix comes into play. With all of your different departments and management involved, as your company grows and as more data sources become involved and more department managers become involved, it can become cumbersome over time to manage your system. However, it doesn't have to be this way. With Profix, we take all of these data sources and we integrate them into centrally defined Profix models. So what this means is all your different data sources, whether it's your general ledger data, any sort of revenue, HR, or flat files as well, we integrate them into Profix models from which you can then build your reports and templates, all your input templates, your reports, and your dashboards. And with these integrated models, you can then export these reports out to various formats such as Word, PDF, PowerPoint, and so on. And lastly, Profix provides you the ability to draw back from these reports back to your source system to view your transactional level of detail. Now, turning our attention to performance reporting, the ability to collaborate with various departments for budgeting and planning can provide you with more accurate data. However, quite often that context and commentary can be missing between departments, and that's where you get that delay in approvals, unnecessary meetings, or lengthy email chains. And as you start to incorporate your company more into that budgeting and planning process, you actually need to be able to capture that commentary behind the numbers. And this is where performance reporting and Profix comes into play. So at Profix, we provide you with a variety of different functions and capabilities with how you can leverage performance reporting. For instance, we provide you with workflow comments, so you can add comments when you approve or reject workflow tasks. You can also leverage cell commenting, where you can add text or attachments that are linked to a specific data point. And those data points and comments are carried throughout all reports and templates. We provide you with the ability to look at line item details, where you can provide multiple lines of details on a single account on your data entry template. And last but certainly not least, we can also provide you the ability to apply row notes. So this is where you can provide commentary on an entire row of data, and that commentary will be tied to that data point regardless of which template or report you're looking at. So without further ado, let's now take a look at our Profix demo, focusing on performance reporting and how you can leverage some of these functionalities that I just spoke about. And as Brad mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, if you do have any questions, please feel free to add them into our chat and we'll address them during our Q&A. Okay, so what you're seeing here on screen now is an example of a Profix dashboard. As you'll notice, I'm leveraging a web browser here. So really, in your case, you can leverage any web browser, and each company will have their own unique URL that they can leverage to access their own instance of Profix. So now in my case, this dashboard that you see here, I've configured this dashboard to show a variety of different charts and KPIs that are relevant for my business and analytical needs. For you and your company, you can create as many different dashboards as you'd like. Each department can be assigned their own dashboard, or one dashboard can be assigned to the entire company. Where Profix really comes into play here is the idea of security. Profix security will ensure that each user only has access to the information that you've given them access to. So for instance, let's take a look here at this revenue variance chart in the top left corner. Based on Profix security, some users may only have the ability to see my actual data, and some may only have the ability to see budget information. The benefit to you and your team is that you only need to create one dashboard, and Profix security will ensure that each user only has access to the information that they should be seeing. Now, with the idea of performance reporting, what I'd like to do here is show you a demonstration of how you can go from a high-level dashboard into a detailed report, all the way down to the detailed level of analysis and leverage performance reporting. So with that in mind, let's again focus in here on this revenue variance chart that I have on the left-hand side. And what we can see here is we're looking at our actuals versus budget and our variance. Looking at this information, you can see that Q1, we had a bit of a slow performance. Q2, we did a little better. And Q3, we're trending well in the right direction. Notice that there currently is not any Q4 information, and this is because Q4 in our scenario here hasn't occurred yet. This dashboard will dynamically update as more information from your source general ledger system, whether it's Dynamics or some other system, that direct connection to your system will directly populate this dashboard and all your reports and templates with your latest information, whether it's on a nightly update process or even faster than that. So we know that Q3 has a positive variance, and this is where you can leverage Profix dashboards to interact and dig deeper on your charting and dashboards. So I want to focus in on Q3 to determine where this variance is coming from. So I can drill right into my third quarter, and I can see the underlying result is the 3 months that make up Q3, and it appears that there's a positive uptick from July through September. So this is great. You've already seen how you can go from a high-level dashboard, drill in a level further, and determine that we have a positive trend heading into Q4. However, we can take this a step further and drill in even deeper. You can think of your dashboard as sort of a launch board where you can launch into detailed reports that provide you with more context and more information. So from this chart here, I'm going to go ahead and with a simple click, we're going to launch into a more detailed report. So now you're looking here at a revenue variance report. And it's important to keep in mind that all these reports and dashboards that you see here today are entirely configurable by you. This includes what's being displayed in the rows, the columns, and the overall look and feel of the reports themselves. So here I can see my revenue now broken out by my different channels, which aggregates up to my total customers. We're looking at our actual, our budget, and then we have our variance here. And what's important to note is all of these calculations are centrally defined within the Profix models that I discussed earlier. So what I mean by this is the fact that total customers is the sum of wholesale, retail, distributor, and so on. It is not simply a cell formula. As you can see, there's no formula here on my sheet. This is centrally defined within the Profix model. So this means you don't have the risk of broken formulas or links, as Profix will ensure the integrity of all of your business logic, regardless of what template or report you are looking at. And the beauty of these reports is you have the ability to filter based on different page combinations. So on the left-hand side here, you'll see that, I'm currently looking at Q3 for total territories. So based on my security access, I can filter from total territories and look at United States, Canada, and so on. So this is where Profix Security will ensure that each user only has access to the page combinations or information that you want them to be able to see. This is also another way of looking at not having to maintain multiple spreadsheets or multiple tabs. All of this is grouped together in an easy-to-follow filtering capability, allowing you to leverage one report, distributing it across many users, and ensuring each user is looking at their own unique information based on their security access. So for instance, if we filter on to United States, you'll notice that my information has updated as well as my chart. The beauty of these reports is if you ever feel the need that you need to export them out to Excel or PDF, you certainly have the capability to do so, where you can download to Excel or PDF right here. Now, coming back to the narrative we were just discussing around the positive variance we saw for Q3, you can see here that we're leveraging conditional formatting here. And thanks to my conditional formatting, I can see that my wholesale channel here is the one that's generating the largest amount of revenue. So right off the bat, we've gone from a high-level dashboard into a detailed report that's identified my wholesale channel as being the main driver behind my revenue. Now, rather than stopping here with our investigation, we can dig even deeper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to analyze this report, and what this will do is it will bring us to this ad hoc view. So with this ad hoc view, essentially what we've done is we stripped away all that formatting and charting that you saw on the previous page, and now we just have the underlying data. So you can see I still have all those various page combinations on my left-hand side, my page filters. So I can filter between different data combinations if I so choose. And again, wholesale channel is a channel we're focused on. Now with this ad hoc view, it's essentially a pivot table, but really on steroids. It allows you to pivot your table and not just your rows and columns, but based on any page filter combination that you see here. And we'll take a look at that in a second. The wholesale channel is the one we want to focus on because that's where most of our positive variance is coming from. So with that in mind, with this ad hoc view, I can easily drill right into that channel to see my underlying customers. Now, looking at my underlying customers, there's one customer in particular that stands out, and that's Artscape. So Artscape here, you can see that there's no budgeted data for Artscape. So this means from a revenue standpoint, we weren't expecting any revenue from Artscape. However, we actually, in actuals, we made a fair amount of revenue from this customer. So now this is where, again, you can leverage Profix to really analyze your data and understand what's causing the variances that you're seeing within your data. So what I can do here is, currently we're looking at Q3. With a simple drag and drop, I'm going to take my third quarter, drag it on top of actuals, and you can see now how I've pivoted my information to now look at my time across the top. So now, again, focusing in on Artscape, I want to identify why we did not budget for Artscape, yet we saw, roughly $2 million in revenue. What we can do here, as I mentioned during my initial introduction, is we can drill across to our transaction system. So again, if wherever your transactional level detail may be stored, whether it's in Dynamics or in another system, simply by right-clicking, I can go ahead and select my drill across here. And what this will do is we'll bring up this field here, or this table. And again, just like your reports in your dashboard, this view is entirely configurable by you. You define what to display for each field. So I'm looking, as you can see, at my customer Artscape. I can look at their customer ID, my various account values, in the invoice ID, the sales rep that's responsible for selling to this customer. Of course, all of these various fields will vary from each company to company and depending on your needs. But what I want to focus in on here is this customer since column. So customer since, you can actually see that Artscape, it says, has been a customer since April 10th, 2019. So what this means to us is they're a new customer. So thanks to my transactional level detail, I've identified that this is a net new customer, hence why we never budgeted for them in the first place. So you can see now how we're able to analyze our data from a high-level dashboard, identify that variance, go to a detailed report, all the way down to our transactional level system. And you'll also notice we have this invoice ID column. So if I scroll over here to the right, you'll notice that I can actually link my invoices right here within Profix. So as you can see, I've downloaded this here. So if I open this up for you, what this results in is an invoice here that will tie out to the data that's being displayed in each row of that drill across view. So you can link your invoices, whether they're in a PDF format or another format, and be able to access them right from within your Profix window. So coming back here to Profix, what I can do with this drill across view is if I ever need to reference it in the future, I can also save this out to Excel for future reference. So I'm going to go ahead and close this view and come back here to my template. Now to my ad hoc view here, and now you've seen how we've gone from that high-level dashboard to a report down to this ad hoc view. So we've already done the analysis. Now if someone else were to come in and take a look at our dashboard and they saw that we had a positive variance for Q3, we don't want them to have to go through the same level of steps to have to analyze their information. And this is where we begin to discuss performance reporting. So what I can do here with this data combination is I can right-click and I can add a cell comment. So for instance, let's focus in on Artscape's Q3 revenue. What I'm going to do is add a comment, and I'm going to specify that Artscape is a new customer, hence the positive variance. So I'm going to go ahead, add that comment in, and you'll notice is as I add that comment, it essentially creates this audit trail or comment history of everyone that's added a comment for each individual cell data combination, and it will tell you who the person was that added the comment, the description of the comment itself, as well as the date that the comment was added. Now if I close this window here, what you'll notice is we get this little pop-up here, or this little red ribbon, as you can see here on the corner of my screen, or of this cell, and as I hover over it, it will show me that comment that was added, and as you can see here, it says Tony Stark added a comment that Artscape is a new customer, hence the positive variance. The benefit here of this is if another user, if I was the one who added this comment and then Brad were to come in and look at this data, Brad will not have to do the analysis himself because we provided that cell commentary to him, allowing him to understand right off the bat as to why we're looking at that positive variance. And the beauty of this is that it saves you and your team time and effort on repeating the same sort of analysis, allowing you to spend your time on your budgeting and reporting needs that could require that additional usage of your time and effort. Now the beauty of these cell comments are that they're tied to the data themselves, to each individual data point. Now what I mean by this is currently we're looking at our actuals data for product revenue at a total department level, total product level, total territories level. If I were to filter this information and look at a different combination, so for instance, if I flipped from actual and I look at budget, you'll notice that that comment has disappeared. That's because it was tied to my actual data combination. It was tied to that specific intersection. So the beauty of this is that anytime you have cell comments, and if you tie it to a specific data combination, if you then look at that same data combination on one template or another template, that cell comment will always dynamically show up with that data combination. So this ensures that no matter if you have 5 users looking at 5 different templates, if they all have that same intersection of information, as you can see here with this specific intersection, they will always have access to that cell comment. All right, so with that being said, having now done our analysis, we're going to turn our attention towards budgeting and how you can leverage performance reporting and tie it in with budgeting and reporting as a whole. So I'm going to go ahead, close this ad hoc view, close this report that we saw earlier, and come back here to our dashboard. Now, this dashboard that you see here before you really is like a one-stop shop for all your budgeting and reporting needs. You know, I have a variety of different charts and KPIs that I'm tracking here. I have all of my favorites, so all of the reports that I know I'm going to be very commonly using. And on the bottom right here, you'll notice I have a My Tasks section. So this My Tasks section is where you can assign your team and each of your various employees with the tasks that they need to complete. So whether it's an OpEx planning task, or maybe they need to fill out your payroll information, or a forecasting template, or even a revenue planning task to budget for your revenue. So each user on their dashboard will be assigned their own unique tasks that Profix will centrally manage for you through our workflow manager. So for today's purposes, I'm going to go ahead and open up our revenue planning task here. So I can simply click directly into this task, or Profix can also send automated emails to each task owner, notifying them that their task has started and that they need to go in and complete their budget. So what you see here before you is just one example of a budgeting template that you can create in Profix. I've assigned my own formatting to the template, where I've identified cells that users can budget as being yellow. So this is automatic formatting that's being applied, where if it's an editable cell, Profix is applying yellow formatting, and whereas if it's not editable, I have blue formatting on the right-hand side here. So again, entirely configurable by you based on your company needs. So currently you can see here on the left-hand side, I have a Pages panel again, and we're currently looking at Futurepreneur customer. What we're going to do is we're going to switch over to Artscape, because that's the customer that we recently acquired, and we want to budget for Artscape. First, right off the bat, you'll notice that I already have a pre-populated budget. So this is where you can leverage Profix to either pre-populate your budget based on historical data, whether it's actuals or a historical forecast or a prior budget, or you can also leverage zero-based budgeting. Really, the option is entirely up to you, but the important note is that Profix provides you with the flexibility to carry out either method. Now, with regards to performance reporting here, what I first want to do is showcase how you can leverage data entry in Profix. Of course, you have your first method of simply being able to enter in data into a specific cell. So if I go ahead and change my quantity for January here, and let's say I make it 600, you'll notice that my product revenue has updated to reflect my new quantity. Now, being able to do simple data entry is all well and good, but you can leverage Profix to carry out data entry in a much more powerful method and then tie that in with your performance reporting. For instance, let's say I know for this product one that my total quantity, rather than being 3588, I know that it will be 4,000. Rather than having to go into each individual month to come up with a total of 4,000, I can simply enter in 4,000 here at a total level. And as I hit enter, you'll notice that Profix is intelligent enough to pick up that we're entering our data at an aggregated annual level. So as we do so, it's asking us, how do you want to spread that information down to each individual month? So we can choose to spread evenly. So take my 4,000 divided by 12, enter it into each month. Or we could spread based on existing data, in which case we're spreading based on the seasonality of the information that's already there. So in this case, or in fact, actually, you have the ability to spread based on data in any other combination of your GL string. So whether you want to spread based on data in a different department, or if you want to spread based on your prior year actuals or a different version or different time period, or if I even want to use any sort of spread-based drivers such as headcount, all of that can be leveraged through the spreading capability of Profix, enabling you to carry out powerful top-down spreading. For now, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to say spread based on existing data, and I'm just going to go ahead and click OK on that. And Profix will automatically calculate that for me, and the result here is that it's taken my 4,000, spread it to each individual month. So now you can see that my 600 that I initially budgeted has been increased based on seasonality to 611. Now, what I want to focus in on here is the performance reporting aspect here around cell comments. So you saw how I added a cell comment on an ad hoc view. I want to showcase the ability to add that cell comment on a template as well. So here we're budgeting 611. So what I can do is right-click and add a comment. I'm going to say that Artscape is a new customer that is planning to continue purchasing for upcoming year. So this is a new customer we acquired, but we've already spoken with them and they will be purchasing for the upcoming year. So what I'm doing as the budget owner is I'm letting my budget approver know that this customer, though they're new, we've already spoken with them and they will continue purchasing from us in the future. So for that purpose, I'm budgeting all this information for them. Now, in addition to being able to add a cell comment, you also have the ability to add cell attachments. So this is supporting documentation that supports your comment that you're providing here. So what I'm going to do, you can notice this paperclip here, is I'm going to go ahead and click that paperclip and add an attachment. So here I have a PDF for Artscape. So I had actually received an email from Artscape letting me know that they're going to continue purchasing for the upcoming year. So I'm going to go ahead, attach that PDF. And really, you can attach a PDF, an Excel file, or a Word file, entirely up to you. But the benefit here is you're providing that supporting documentation right on that specific intersection of your data. So again, I'm going to go ahead and hit that plus sign and add our cell comment. Again, you can now see that Tony Stark has added a comment. He added the comment today, so I can see May 8th, 2019. And I also have access directly to that linked supporting document. So if I were to go ahead and click on this supporting document here, again, I can download that PDF. So if I were to open up that PDF, you can see here that this was the PDF email I received. Michael Scott from Artscape has sent an email to Profix letting us know that they will indeed continue purchasing in Q1 and onwards for next year. They have been extremely pleased with our products. So that's terrific, and that's excellent from a budgeting standpoint. We're glad to know that this customer will continue purchasing from us for the future. What this means to you and your team, again, is if a budget approver, budget manager, or anyone else on your team were to access this template and they wanted to understand why we budgeted each individual data point for Artscape, they can simply reference these cell comments. So, I can see here that as I hover over the cell, this little red ribbon icon identifies that there's a cell comment here. So I can see that Artscape is a new customer that's planning to continue purchasing in the future. So that's fantastic. Again, you're able to quickly do that analysis or leverage the analysis that someone else has already done for you. Again, saving you and your team time and effort and having to repeat that same analysis. So here we know why we budgeted the information that we did. Sometimes you also want to know who made the change to your data and when was that change made. So what I'm talking about here is the ability to look at your data history. So if I look at this same cell here for my 611, what I can do is I can go ahead and look at data history. This data history here will show you everyone that's made any sort of changes to that specific cell. So here I can see that Tony Stark was the one that came in and made some edits. I can see the specific date and timestamp on which that change was made for my data entry. I can see the specific value that was entered, and I can also see how the method that was used to enter that value. So what I mean by this is one method might be to simply enter in the value of 600 into that cell, or you can see here that in some cases I actually spread at the total level, so I spread 3,587, and as a result, the resulting value for January was 261. So this is the kind of detail that you can receive from Profix when you're carrying out your budgeting, both from a performance reporting standpoint and from a data history standpoint. In addition to cell comments, we also have the ability to provide line item details. So for instance, again, if we're taking a look at this being our revenue planning template, let's say we were to look at our OpEx template. So I'm going to come back here to my dashboard and open up a OpEx planning template that I have. Now with this OpEx planning template, what you'll notice here is I have this advertising line where if you can see there's this small blue ribbons. And what these blue ribbons indicate is the presence of line item details or below the line detail. So for instance, if I were to try and enter in data into my advertising line, you'll see here that Profix is warning me that you as the budget manager have required your budget owners to not budget advertising at a high level, but instead to budget the line item details that make up your total advertising amount. So if I click OK on this warning here, it will pop up my line item detail here. So now you can see how you can require your budget owners to budget at a more granular level. So what makes up our total advertising value? So here I can see that I have my web advertising, television, radio, and print. And we can also provide notes and commentary as to why we're budgeting the amount that we are budgeting for each individual line. So for instance, I can see here that with web advertising, we're budgeting $12,000. And the reason for this is because we're expecting web advertisements to have the greatest impact. So this is the level of detail and granularity that you can get to with Profix and the performance reporting capabilities. And those same spreading capabilities that I showed you a moment ago on our revenue planning template can also apply to our line item details. For instance, rather than budgeting $12,175 for web advertising, I can come in here and enter $13,000 at an annual level. And again, Profix will prompt me to spread based on perhaps one of the other advertising lines or any other drivers that we may have. So I'm going to close this view and come back here to my template. And let's close this template and go back to our revenue planning template that we were looking at. So what we've done is we've added some cell comments, we've made some data changes, and done some top-level spreading. What I want to do now is submit this template for approval. The beauty here with Profix's workflow process is you'll notice here I have this workflow tab. If I click this and hit submit, Profix will prompt me to add a comment for my submission. And the benefit here is when you add a comment here, it will send an email out to the budget approver with my commentary. So for instance, if I say submitted for your approval, I'm going to go ahead and click yes. And you can see here it says submission successful in the bottom right-hand corner. And what that's done is it's submitted my template to the budget approver, who will then approve that email or will receive an automated email from Profix notifying them that, Brad, for instance, has submitted his revenue budget, and I can now either approve or reject. And what I've done is I've actually set myself up as the budget approver. So here you can actually see an example of what that automated email would look like. So here you can see that this is an automated email generated by Profix informing you that the revenue planning task has been submitted. And what you'll notice down here is I can maintain the entire comment thread. So for instance, if I submit this email or submit my revenue budget to Brad with my commentary, Brad will then receive an email with the comment that I provided, and then he can either approve my template or reject it. But the important thing is he can provide his own commentary back. So then what this is doing for us is essentially we have a back and forth communication portal going without ever actually having to go and send out a manual email. Profix takes care of this for you by its automated email distribution system, allowing you to simply focus on your task at hand. And you'll notice here as well that Profix will provide you with a direct link, taking you directly into the template that is being discussed, saving you, again, time and effort of having to log in, going to your dashboard, and finding the template that you need to approve. So again, let's come back here over to our dashboard. And again, as you can see that everything comes and ties back to our dashboard. It's really our one-stop shop for all your needs. So you've already seen how we've completed our revenue planning task, and we've seen an example of our OPEX planning as well. And regardless of whether you're doing your revenue budgeting, your OPEX budgeting, or capital expense or payroll, you can leverage that cell commenting capability as well as the ability to add your line item details for below the line reporting and budgeting. And once all that's done, Profix workflow will ensure that the correct budget approver receives an automated email letting them know that it's time to approve the budget. All right, so what we've done so far is you've seen how we can go from a high-level dashboard into a detailed report, down to an ad hoc view, all the way down to your transactional level detail linking to Dynamics or your source system. And we've seen how that can tie together your cell comments, your workflow commenting, and your line item details. The one other aspect that I'd like to touch upon is performance reporting, or performance reporting through the use of row notes. So in my favorites here on the right-hand side, you'll notice that I have a revenue scenario analysis, or this revised budget versus actual report. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this revised budget versus actual. What you see here is I have a budget versus actual report here where I'm looking at comparing a scenario versus my actuals. So basically what I've done is at some point in the past I budgeted out a scenario, and now it's 5 months in the future, and what I want to do is I want to compare that scenario that I budgeted for against my actuals to see what were the results. Now, on a typical report, you can either look at the numbers and try to piece together yourself to understand what actually occurred, or you can leverage Profix's performance reporting capabilities and leverage our row notes. So what you see here on the right-hand side is each of your users can provide you with comments as to what occurred on each individual line of your data. So for instance, I can see here that for my average selling price, we had an increase in price. And I can see that someone has gone in and added a comment letting me know that there was a price increase that was passed on to our customers. For my cost of revenue, I can see I have a cell comment or a row comment here telling me that costs came in higher than expected. However, our gross margin is still positive, so despite higher costs, we earned a positive margin. Now, these are very generic high-level comments that I've added, but in the case of your company and your team, your employees and your budget managers and approvers can provide you with granular level detail explaining why your cost of revenue margin or why your cost of revenue variance was negative or positive for a specific period in time. Now, the beauty of these row notes that you see here, they're dynamic on this report. And what I mean by that is this is not static comments that will forever be tied to the data you're seeing here just on this static view. So for instance, on my pages panel here on the left-hand side, I'm currently looking at total territories. So if I were to filter from total territories, and let's say we filter to United States, what you'll notice is my comments will dynamically update to reflect the data combination that we're looking at. So now that I'm looking at United States, you'll notice that I have specific comments associated with the United States. So again, this is where you and your team can leverage creating a single report, distributing it out to all of your users, and Profix Security will ensure that each user only accesses the territories that they're responsible for. So where Brad may be responsible for the United States, I'm responsible for Canada, and someone else may be responsible for Europe. In my case, as the administrator of Profix, I have access to all 3 territories plus my aggregated level. So you can see as I filter between each of my different regions, there are different comments associated with each region. So in the case of the United States, here I can see that for quantity, we actually had a one-time anomaly that will have no impact next quarter. So right off the bat, rather than having to figure out and go and talk to so-and-so to determine, hey, why did we have a negative variance on our quantity, someone has already gone in and identified for me that it was just an anomaly that occurred once and it should not have an impact going forward. So again, this saves you the time and effort of having to follow up with your team to identify various anomalies or variances within your reports and your data. And again, with this data that you see here, if you ever feel the need that you need to save it out to Excel and reference it in the future or save it out to PDF, you certainly have the ability. So as you see here, if I go ahead and click, I want to download it as PDF, Profix will ask me, do I want to download all of my pages or do I want to download a specific subset? So in this case, I could choose to say that I'm just going to go ahead and download United States, and if I click OK, it will download a PDF. So as I hit OK, this PDF will be generated for me, which again I can open up and show you that this PDF with the cell comments with all the formatting intact is generated, and I can then distribute this elsewhere if need be. Now, rather than distributing those PDFs manually, as you saw, where I downloaded it to PDF and then I have the ability to distribute it through email, you can leverage Profix to distribute your PDFs for you, or your Excel files, or your Profix-generated reports. And the way we do this is through report binders. So if I close this report and come back again to my dashboard here, in my favorites here, what you'll notice is I have this revenue reporting binder. So if I click on this reporting binder, what you'll notice here is I can basically group together multiple reports as a package that I want Profix to automatically distribute for me. So in this case, you can see I have a variety of different reports, some of which I actually took a look at with you, which were our revenue variance report, our revenue planning template, our revised budget versus actual. And in addition to all of these Profix generated reports, I can also import external reports, so external formats, such as a Word file or a PDF or an Excel file, and add them to my reporting package. Once I've identified the reports that I want to package together, all I need to do is choose my distribution list. So who do I want to distribute these reports to? So, I may have the executive group that I want to send the reports to. So again, the beauty here with Profix is you can identify certain users as being your department managers, your executives, so that next time, rather than having to individually choose each department manager to distribute the report to, I can simply choose my executive group, and Profix will automatically distribute to all of the execs. Or, of course, I can come in here and add individual users that I want to distribute the report to. So, for instance, if I were to add Tony Stark, or I wanted to add Nick Fury to my distribution list, I can simply do so, click OK, and I can save my report binder. And coming back to my dashboard, once that report binder has been distributed, let's say I chose to distribute it as a PDF package. So here you can see here in my favorites, I've already pinned an example of a report binder that I actually distributed. So if I download this file here and pull this up, what you'll see here is this is a PDF package that's been generated through Profix. So I have my cover page, supporting details, and then I have each of my individual reports. So I have a revenue variance reporting, and as I scroll through, you can see my revenue planning templates, any sort of scenario analysis. And if I scroll near the bottom here, just to show you, you can see that I also have that same revised budget versus actual report with all of the performance reporting intact. And what you'll notice is I have 16 pages of this document. That's because I'm the administrator, so I've given myself access to all of the information within our various reports. However, again, with Profix security, user A may only receive 8 pages based on the access that you give them in Profix, whereas Brad may receive 10 pages and another user may receive 12 pages. Again, this is where Profix security will ensure that you only have to send this package out once, and Profix security will automatically ensure that each user only receives the number of pages that they're permitted to see. This is, again, where Profix security and performance reporting can save you time and effort with having to individually send reports to each individual user, and also provide you with a deep level of analysis so that next time you open up a report, you don't have to spend your time trying to identify various different variances or anomalies. Back here in Profix, what we've been discussing so far has been very revenue-oriented, of course, but that's just one instance of how you can carry out your performance reporting. For instance, I have here a monthly variance income statement. So if I open up my monthly variance income statement, rather than just focusing in on my revenue here, we're focusing in on our company as a whole. So I want to look at not just my revenue, but my expense side as well. Again, with performance reporting, I can see that for payroll costs, for instance, we did not need as many analysts as we originally budgeted, hence the positive variance on our payroll costs. So this level of performance reporting not only applies to your revenue side, but also, of course, to your expense side, and really any aspect of your business. And the same page filtering capabilities that we saw previously with all of our other reports are available to you as well on this income statement. So for instance, I'm currently looking at Q1. I can go ahead and I can filter to my 2019. And if I look at 2019, I can look at the various comments that are associated at the 2019 level. So here you'll notice that my comments for 2019 differ than what we saw at Q1. So for instance, as I scroll down to the bottom, I can see that at an overall net income level, the reason that we had a negative value here is that the variance was largely due to a decline in service revenue. So again, this is one instance where because of this performance reporting capability, I now know that I need to go back to my team and discuss why we're seeing a decline in service revenue and the impact that's having on our bottom line. So from a high level, that wraps up the performance reporting capabilities that you can leverage through the use of Profix. This ties in with your budgeting, your reporting, as well as any sort of forecasting or scenario analysis that you want to carry out. And the idea here is that Profix is a unified solution allowing you or enabling you to use it as a one-stop shop for all your performance and budgeting needs and provide you with the necessary performance reporting to ensure that your entire team is on a unified front and there's no miscommunication between departments. With that being said, Brad, I think we can open it up to any questions that we may have.
Great. It doesn't look like there are any questions submitted at this time, but like Hashim said, let's open up the floor. If anybody has any questions about Profix or the capabilities or how it might apply to your organization, please feel free to submit them at this time. Hashim, was there anything you wanted to add before we wrap it up?
I think high level, I think we did cover a large variety of what I wanted to look at. Actually, I do see a question here regarding, so managing the entire budget cycle. So there's a question about how we can manage or how you can leverage Profix to manage your entire budget cycle. So high level, I touched on the idea of workflow manager. So what I didn't get a chance to show you earlier, and I think this will be a great opportunity to just quickly show you, is what your centralized workflow looks like in Profix. So on my favorites here, I have this Profix workflow. So if I go ahead and open this up, what you can see here is I have all of my individual tasks that are assigned to each of my users. And the idea of a Profix workflow is where a lot of our users, really struggle with their previous budgeting systems, where anytime we've asked them to kind of whiteboard what their current budgeting process looks like, it looks something like this. It's hard to follow. It's kind of a mess. It's hard to tell which spreadsheet is going from who to which department, who is involved in each of the different steps. And this is where Profix comes into play, and we take these complicated budgeting cycles of yours, and we organize them and streamline them in an easy-to-follow process. So starting with your budget baseline preparation, down to your OpEx planning, your revenue planning, all the way down to through each level of approval, ultimately to your board approval and your report distribution. So you can leverage this workflow manager that you see here before you to keep track of all your different budgeting tasks and ensure that there's an easy, streamlined process that you can follow from start to finish. So hopefully that addresses the question at a high level of how you can leverage Profix's workflow manager. And I think that answers everything I had on my end today, Brad.
Okay. Great. Well, that wraps up our webinar today. I just want to thank everybody again for joining us, and a big thank you to Hashim for presenting with us. If you have further questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. You'll be getting a follow-up email from me tomorrow, which will include a link to where you can watch the webinar, as well as our contact information, so you can feel free to use that as your channel for asking us any further questions as well. That's pretty much it. Just a reminder that we'll be sending out that email with the recording. And until next time, I hope everybody has a great afternoon, and thank you again for joining us.